it's that way, is it? Eat shrimp, savage.
Okay, stop! Stop.
Shall we put some of this chaos to work?
Sounds tasty. Let's get cooking.
So you're wearing a chef's hat because...
Well, because we're about to do an entire episode of Myths devoted to cooking food in weird ways. We're calling it Cooking Chaos.
Like what?
Well, later we're going to be creating some fruit juice using nothing but fruit and explosives.
We just blew up a tomato, and now we're trying to have a drink.
But first up, we have a viral video. Two women are seen loading raw shrimp into what looks like an air cannon. They then fire it through clouds of flour, egg, breadcrumbs, and eventually a fireball where the shrimp hit a target, land on a plate, and seem to be perfectly cooked.
Instant tempura.
Exactly, and I think we should try doing it.
Yum.
For 14 years, the MythBusters have dined,
You want to try some? Oh, you can't.
devoured, and feasted
You can't hold it anymore.
on some fantastically far-fetched
Oh!
food fables.
Red meat and high explosives.
But in this tasty duo of tall tales, they're going to crank up the cooking chaos to the max with a classic MythBuster medley.
Like some sort of jet engine.
First up, is it really possible to coordinate 4 explosive ingredients and a fireball to fry on the fly? To test it, they have to copy the video's crazy contraption. It's going to be a challenge.
All right, let's start by listing the components. What do we got?
We have some sort of pneumatic cannon.
A flour cannon,
Then we've got the egg wash.
and then a breadcrumb cannon,
And then, of course, there's fire.
and then the target. The flour cannon and the breadcrumb cannon are effectively the same device. I can jump on that.
Okay, well, I'll take care of the egg wash and the cannon. I think I have just the thing.
Awesome!
This launcher's been on the show several times before. The last one was testing whether rocks coming out of a lawnmower could be lethal or not. Wow. Now, the benefit of using a pneumatic launcher like this is that we can shoot just about anything that we can fit in the barrel. And because it has a regulator, we can precisely adjust the speed. Now, in the case of shrimp, that's doubly important because we want to fire the whole shrimp intact. We don't want to shoot a cloud of shrimp bits at our target. And with a little modification here and there, I think this might just do the trick.
That's the shrimp launcher. Next comes the cannon for the dry ingredients. First, the breadcrumbs.
All right, allow me to walk you through the components. First and foremost, we have the cones that will shoot out the breadcrumbs. Those horns are being powered by air, which is blasted up through these tubes to this T coming out of this large pneumatic valve. It's actually an electromagnetic valve, so when I apply a little power to it under pressure, it will release air and hopefully send the breadcrumbs flying. Jamie's gonna be like, why does my shop smell like an Italian restaurant? If I wanted an Italian restaurant, I'd open one.
To keep the mess to a minimum, Adam fills half of the cones for a quick systems check.
This is breadcrumb horn test. 3, 2, 1. Ah! That's lovely. Oh, Jamie's gonna be so mad. It's so itchy. It worked beautifully. I have no idea how well it worked for the experiment, but it threw breadcrumbs into a cloud magnificently.
That works. And while Adam knocks up an identical system for the flour, Jamie's getting eggy with it.
I've got to figure out how to shoot egg wash down. This is a solenoid valve. It's an electronic valve that opens and closes a stream of air. Oops, wrong end. And that's fine, but I'm using egg, and I don't want to clog it up. What I'm going to use is this puppy right here, which has a similar solenoid valve here and a piston with a rack and pinion on it that rotates a ball valve. And I can send anything I want through here and not gum anything up. You know, I could fill this thing with that animal birthing lubricant and spray Adam down. I can completely coat him with one shot. It's done.
To test that it matches the spray in the video,
It's gonna be hard to make it with this camera in there. Hold on. Delicious.
Adam whips up some egg-like liquid,
Oh, yummy. Look at that.
rigs Jamie's hose to its compressed air power source,
3, 2, 1.
and lets loose.
Ha! Beautiful.
And the flour thrower also gets a systems check.
Here, you can run that sound effect right over the high speed. Hey, this is fun to scrub through this. You could also run that sound effect across it. I guess we better get back to making a TV show.
That just leaves the fireball, but that will be assembled on location because the team has a dubious safety record at M5.
Am I missing an eyebrow?
So before things heat up, it's time to tackle another classic MythBusters conundrum. Juicing the inside of fruit with an explosion.
So tell me about creating smoothies inside fruits and vegetables using explosives.
Well, you pretty much outlined the whole thing right there. It is in a viral video we found where apparently the shockwave of an explosion can be tuned perfectly enough to not destroy the outside of the fruit, but turn the inside into juice such that you can stick a straw in and have a refreshing drink.
Well, I'm dubious, but sounds like fun.
I agree. Let's do it.
It's a deadly fruit cocktail only the MythBusters could tackle, and they've got just the place to do it.
When you want to investigate the power of an explosion, we have a place we like to go. Well, actually, we have a lot of places we go. But our home away from home and the place we go more than any other is right here at the Alameda County Sheriff's Department. We've been coming here for more than a decade, and we have blown up thousands of things on this property. It's like a clown's head exploded. Today, however, we're doing things just a little bit differently.
Yep, this time they won't be destroying so much as creating and containing.
Okay.
To test the premise of the video and its use of surgically precise high explosives,
I love filling waterproof tanks.
they have to accurately recreate all of the elements, starting with the water-filled blast-proof box.
We've gone above and beyond to make this tank really robust. Because water doesn't compress, you're effectively delivering a hammer blow to that structure.
That worked beautifully.
In this case, the ballistic material is probably the weak point. It's made to stop a bullet, but what it'll do with an explosive, it's anybody's guess. I can tell you one thing for sure, I'm gonna be standing well back.
Now to position the fruit and explosive as per the video.
Now that our tank is set up and filled with water, let's talk about the parameters for this experiment. First and foremost is the explosive. Now, in the video, they show that the explosive is 17.5 centimeters from the fruit. That's the radius of the explosion. And the explosion goes to about 2.5 centimeters or 1 inch away from the fruit. If you double that, calculate the diameter, it comes to about a 12 or 13-inch cavitation that the explosive creates.
So we're going to be using one of these things. It's a blasting cap, and it's what we saw them use in the video.
Nice. Great.
It's easily set off by applying a small amount of electric current to these wires.
That's about as dead center as we can get. Oh, look at this beautiful thing. Oh, so pretty. That's an explosion in style right there. Mind if I take the first plunge?
Not at all.
I'm using a plunger and we've got a plastic cap in water. Plunge puns abound. All right, fire in the hole. Blasting cap test. 3, 2, 1.
It was an energetic mini boom. The incompressible water transfers the blast energy in a hammer blow to the armored box. But it holds.
Makes a beautiful bubble that looks almost exactly like 12 inches in diameter. I don't know, I thought it was going to immediately be too large, but that might be perfect.
They got it right first time.
Yeah.
The blast wave expands rapidly, creating the 12-inch bubble they were looking for, before the blast wind pulls back and it collapses.
The blasting cap made exactly the size of cavitation in our tank that we were looking for. So now we're going to put some fruit in there and see if we actually can make a smoothie. But wait. Before we begin blowing fruit up willy-nilly, we need to answer a couple of questions first. Let me put it this way. There's one of two outcomes to this experiment. The explosives might not work at all in juicing the inside of a fruit, but they also might work. And how much juice can you actually get out of a tomato? That's what I'm going to determine with the experimental setup in front of me. First, I need some tomatoes. Here's some I grew earlier. Then I'm going to juice them and figure out how much juice I get out of each one, so I can come up with an average percentage of juice per tomato that we can compare against the results of the explosives in case the explosives actually work.
While Adam gets busy terminating tomatoes,
Very satisfying.
Jamie's looking at the other end of the scale for a control comparison. What happens if the explosive doesn't work?
I am getting little bubbles of a fluid that's coming through there, but it's precious little. It's effectively only a drop, barely enough to wet your lips with. So just sticking the tip of the syringe into the tomato, even with a lot of probing around, about all I'm getting is a drop.
But if an explosion does mulch the interior of the tomato, how much juice is it possible to extract?
Hey, I'm back from doing the math. It went great. No one got hurt. More importantly, I got some numbers. For instance, I averaged out the amount of juice per tomato I got, and it was 62%. That means I got 62% of the weight of the tomato out in delicious tomato juice. I also was able to get an average of 108 milliliters of juice per tomato. Those are great numbers against which we can compare the effectiveness of explosives.
Meaning it's back to the bomb range, where we know the blasting cap has 3,640 joules of energy and should match the explosive bubble in the video. Now, for the shrink-wrapped tomato.
This is a polyolefin bag, and I can shrink it. There you go.
Oh, that's beautiful. Do you think this will float?
I think it will. What are we going to do about that?
I've got a magnet with a string on it. I figure I'll attach it to the bottom and we'll hang the blasting cap from the top.
The fruit is suspended according to the reference, 7 inches from the blasting cap. And the setup is complete.
That is so weird that just that thin amount of plastic film makes it look like it's encased in like an inch of lucite from up here.
Yeah.
It's like that air refraction that happens when you have a tiny little bit of air in the water. That is pretty cool looking.
Will the blast wave leave the exterior surface intact and juice the interior cellular structure? Or is it just another far-fetched fake film? They're all set to take the plunge.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Fire the hole! Fire the hole! Fire the hole! The whole thing jumped. That was awesome. One!
Just how awesome is illustrated on the high-speed camera.
Whoa, look at that beautiful bubble.
Wow! We have this perfect 12-inch cavitation.
As per the video, the tomato skin is intact, but has it been juiced?
I've got some straws. Now, if the video is to be believed, I should get tomato juice out of this.
Here, do you want to try it? All right. Oh, what? Hey!
You're kind of getting some juice there.
Jamie manages to suck up a decent mouthful of juice.
I did.
And Adam, comparing it to an unexploded raw control with zero liquid uptake,
I'm getting nothing.
thinks they may be onto something.
This is so ludicrous. We just blew up a tomato, and now we're trying to have a drink. What else? No big.
Question is, where to now?
Okay, did you see what I see there? Yeah, exactly. Our tomato was just a little too far from the bubble. I'd say about 2 inches away, and we needed to be 1 inch away, like we see in the video. That is our next test. Oh, damn, the sneeze didn't come. What a buzzkill. Tenderizing meat.
For more than a decade, the MythBusters have put kitchen catastrophes to the test.
You should never do this at home.
And this rich tradition continues with a classic calorific series of big bangs.
Here's what just happened. We detonated a blasting cap 7 inches away from a tomato, and it seems we made a difference in how much juice we were able to get out of that tomato.
Hey! You're kind of getting some juice there.
I did.
So we're going to do it again, except next time we're going to move the tomato a little bit closer.
And there it is, exactly 6 inches. 1 inch closer than last time.
Because that might get even more of a definitive result.
Fire the hole! That doesn't get old.
The skin once again survived a blast wave measuring more than 27,000 feet per second. And thanks to advances in camera tech, we can see the positioning perfectly matched the clip.
We're not messing around when it comes to the high-speed footage. This camera is state-of-the-art, and it films at a maximum frame rate of 28,000 frames per second in HD.
But what about the all-important taste test?
That looks like a lot of juice.
That was almost a mouthful.
Really?
Yeah.
We're a lot farther along on this than I thought we would be. I thought this was that realm of almost total fantasy.
I have to admit on this one, you have to color me totally surprised. I was sure our explosive was going to rip apart the outside of our fruit. And even if it didn't, there was no way it was going to yield actual juice. Now, we will compare the juice we get from the explosive to an industrial juicer later, but right now we are going to start looking for the sweet spot.
4.5.
There you go.
Fire the hole!
And that is how close we can get the explosive to the fruit before we start to destroy the skin. That's where we'll get maximum juice.
This is our cooking show. 3, 2, 1.
Yep, they want to get as close as they can without rupturing the tomato
Fruit is still intact.
to get the highest juice yield possible.
That looks amazing. He's getting juice out of it.
At 4.5 inches, the tomato is intact and tenderized.
Oh, it's much softer. I wish you were watching this in Philo-Vision.
That's a significant difference.
It's the same story at 3 inches.
1!
Still
there.
I don't know that we breached the outer skin. This is amazing.
And even at 1.5 inches. And most importantly, Jamie seems to be getting more juice each time.
Look at that, dude. That looks like the best one yet. When Jamie's people come and invade the Earth, this is what they're gonna do to our planet.
I feel like a mosquito.
Until half an inch proves too close for comfort.
One! Yep, finally. We figured out how close you can get and actually hurt a tomato.
Before they quantify just how much juice they're detonating and deliberate on the result, it's back to the shrimp course.
One of the great things about shooting the show in the Bay Area is that we have such a wonderful array of places to run our experiments at. This one, in particular, is going to be perfect for us to run an experiment that involves shrimp, guns, air cannons, and fireballs.
The engineering challenge they're facing to even test this viral video is as tough as it gets. A ballistic ballet of perfectly choreographed explosive ingredients.
We have watched this video dozens of times and looked at every single shot of the rig.
Beauty.
And we have measured as best we can the distances between each of the stations and replicated exactly the journey of the shrimp from gun to plate.
I love color.
With the system laid out according to the video reference, Jamie hooks up the power source.
Given that this whole thing is driven by air, we don't want any... Oh! We don't want any leaks.
While Jamie springs into action, unspringing any leaks,
Leak number 3.
Adam attempts to avoid product placement.
In the video, the target seems to be a pillow of bubble. So, am I allowed to say bubble? The world. In the video, the target seems to be a pillow of this bubble packaging stuff. You know what it's called. I'm gonna make a pillow of the same stuff.
With their trademark target taped into place,
Time for shooting.
and the firing squad peeled and prepped, they're all set to test the first cog in their multi-part machine, the shrimp cannon.
After all of our prep work, what remains to be done is to fire shrimp from this gun and see, well, just how accurately it fires.
Oh, look at those.
This whole machine depends upon this shrimp firing accurately.
The shrimp gun is locked and loaded.
I, for one, think that there may be a little adjustment after the first time we fire it. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. I got shrimp up my nose. What happened?
Well, Adam called it. A few minor adjustments are clearly required.
Later on Crustacean Crime Scene Investigators. Clearly, this shrimp was fired out of a cannon. Yeah. The first test, well, my face got covered with shrimp guts. And that's the best I can say about that test. It was pretty much a total failure. But we're gonna hold down the shrimp cartridge so it doesn't jump like it did last time.
Okay, so I'm gonna hold on to that.
And see if we can't get the shrimps to hit the target. Shrimp cannon test fire number 2. That's the first task. Then the second one is to make sure they hit it consistently.
In 3, 2, 1.
We might have a problem on our hands.
Shrimp nil.
Nice.
1.
Shrapnel. Let's go collect the shrapnel.
Well, right out of the gate, it's not looking too good for this story because we didn't even get to the target and our shrimp basically disintegrated.
Ooh, I grabbed it by its eyeball.
There's little bits everywhere. And we can't just add more pressure, it's just gonna disintegrate them more. And that means that we've got to do something to doctor this a little bit. And what it would take is what is known as a sabot, which is behind the shrimp and takes the brunt of the force of the air blast, pushing the shrimp out of the cannon without destroying them.
Things we turn out to get good at that will never be useful again.
And then that sabot or wadding falls away before it reaches the target.
Test number 3. 3, 2, 1.
That was a little better.
That was a lot better. All 3 of them hit the back target, and if I'm not incorrect, at the same time.
The sabot was successful. The shrimp stayed intact, and with a small adjustment to the aim,
That was perfect. That was perfect. I was going to say almost perfect, but that was perfect.
the guys seem happy.
Spank right into the pillow.
Couldn't be better.
That success means they can go again, this time to measure the flight time.
For the record, the last one took 392 milliseconds to reach from the end of the barrel to the target.
And with that, they're ready to coordinate the launch of the shrimp with each ingredient and the final fiery piece of the puzzle.
Nice! This is the coolest toy ever. We have been attempting to cook a shrimp in mid-air. So far, we've got the shrimp flying consistently into a target, spank right into the pillow. And now,
We need to set off each of those elements at precisely the right time. For that, we're going to be using these timers, which will allow us to tune everything the way we need it to within milliseconds.
That's the key to this complicated cooking method, the launch sequence.
all right.
Each element has its own trigger, delayed depending on how fast that ingredient reaches its optimum spread. And they have to be wired together to fire in sync.
I love these situations when we've set this stuff up like a house of cards. All we have to do is take off one of these and run it to our AC line. There's all these switches and solenoids and a bunch of other stuff that are activating all at once, and it's almost too much to comprehend.
I don't think you're right. You only have one, the switch only activates one of 2 legs.
It's cool.
Question is, will it work?
Things are about to get messy. So, if this all works, we should end up with 3 raw shrimp that are beautifully floured, egged, and breaded sitting on this plate. I don't think that's gonna happen. I think there's gonna be a little bit of niggling and figuring and finagling. All right, here we go. 90% operations test shrimp cannon in 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, man.
Are you covered with egg?
Yeah.
I've heard of egg on one's face, but not on one's pants.
Question is, are the shrimp coated as well as Jamie's pants?
Okay, so it's going through a beautiful cloud of flour. Flour's perfectly timed. Egg, way too late. Breadcrumbs were good, but I mean, they need more fantails of breadcrumbs.
Yep, the egg fired late and the breadcrumb cloud underwhelmed, leaving the shrimp underdressed. So, some adjustments.
Oh, yeah. So I'm adding in a second set of 4 fantails.
They doubled down on that crunchy coating
If this doesn't coat it with breadcrumbs, why nothing will.
and tweaked the egg shower timing. Cue a 500-degree Fahrenheit fireball.
Yes, this is what you've been waiting for. Like this, cooked shrimp might be next.
Hopefully, this will keep the shrimp from ricocheting off the plate. And it's got a little shock absorption, too.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say this might be the weirdest machine we've built on the shop.
It's right up there, certainly.
This one's for the money. I'm gonna try cooking shrimp in midair. In 3, 2, 1. Dude! That was beautiful. Shrimp are leaving. It's going through the flour. Awesome! Goes to the egg. And the breadcrumbs. Oh my God. And the fire! It worked! That is awesome.
It's an astonishing ballet of edible ballistics. Each ingredient timed with millisecond accuracy. And if the video is to be believed, that means we have a plate full of cooked shrimp, right?
Here's one here. He's not coated or cooked.
Wrong.
What? Our machine works beautifully. The shrimp is flying through clouds of flour, breadcrumbs, egg, and fire. But it's not getting coated, it's not getting covered, and it's definitely not getting cooked.
This guy does have what appear to be some breadcrumbs on it, but
But like 3.
yeah.
Okay, so we need like hundreds more.
After timing the flight of the shrimp with millisecond accuracy, it turns out time was never on their side.
The problem is that if we slow the shrimp down long enough to allow these processes time to work, the shrimp are going to fall short of the target. We could make the clouds larger and shoot over a longer distance, but that would require more air pressure, which most likely is going to blow the shrimp apart.
It's a classic catch-22. To coat the shrimp requires a much longer flight time, but that would destroy them. So that part of the video was clearly faked.
And then there's the fire. For the same reason that flicking your hand through a candle flame doesn't burn you, the shrimp just doesn't spend enough time in the fire to get cooked. And we can't, for all the reasons Jamie just stated, let it spend more time in the fire, but we can make the fire hotter. This is a 5-burner sword forge running propane. It runs about 4 times as hot as our flame bar, 2,000 degrees. And because it's a sword forge, it's open on either end. That means we're gonna shoot our shrimp right through the middle of this baby. If that doesn't cook our shrimp in midair, I don't know what would.
Before the shrimp fly through the forge, go! Jamie and Adam are facing the far-fetched fact that fruit can be juiced using an explosion.
All right, once we figured out that we had the right explosive, that putting it 7 inches away from our tomato did not destroy it and gave us juice, then we figured out that putting it ever closer still didn't destroy the tomato but got us more juice each time. The question was, how close can you get to get the maximum amount of juice without destroying the tomato? And that distance turns out to be 1.5 inches. But now it's time to figure out exactly how much juice we can get out of that to actually quantify it.
How? Well, earlier, back at the shop, we quantified the amount of juice that we got from a tomato using an industrial juicer.
And it was 62%. That means I got 62% of the weight of the tomato out in delicious tomato juice.
Now we're going to compare that to what we get from a tomato detonated at our sweet spot of 1.5 inches.
All right, so here's how this is gonna work. I've got a vacuum pump, a containment vessel, and a straw at the end of a tube. The vacuum pump will pull air out of this, which will then come through this straw. We stick the straw into the tomato, and it acts just like Jamie's mouth, sucking the tomato juice out.
Oh.
That's vigorous.
That's actually pretty impressive, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's coming.
All right. I think that's more than a human could get out, which we then weigh in this cup and determine exactly what percentage of juice we got out by detonating a blast cap near the tomato. 60. This works out beautifully. 180-gram tomato, we got 60 grams of juice. That's exactly 1/3. That is 30% of the tomato in juice. That's half of what you get out of an industrial juicer, but that's a lot more than I thought we'd get. I actually believe that we are drifting dangerously into plausible territory here. In fact, after all this blasting, I'm not sure where we could go from here.
Yes, using a precisely calibrated explosive charge, it's possible to juice the inside of a tomato. And there really is only one place to go from here. In patented MythBusters style, is bigger better?
I think we need more explosives. All episode long, we've been attempting to replicate a viral video we found which seems to show that a small amount of explosives can turn a tomato into a tomato juice dispenser. That is, that it can turn the inside of a tomato to liquid you can drink while not damaging the outside. And astonishingly, we seem to have determined that this is actually true. Now, of course, it's MythBusters, so where a small amount of explosives seems to work pretty well, a large amount of explosives ought to work a lot better.
This time around, we're going to be using 20 pounds of TNT. Nice. Nice and peaceful out here. At least right now it is. And that's going to create a much larger and more powerful pressure wave. So in theory, that should do a better job of creating more juice.
The blasting cap yield was 30%. To attempt to maximize the juice, they're scaling up the explosion energy by a factor of 10,000.
Scientifically speaking, when we scale things up, we need to scale everything up to be consistent. Now, our prior test used a small tank, and in this case, we're out in the open in a lake. And so we're introducing all sorts of variables that will have unknown consequences. That's why we have to test it. We honestly don't know what kind of result we're going to get.
All right, let's double check our supplies. We got mesh bags, check. Oranges, check. Cucumbers, check. Tomatoes, wrapped, check. Pineapples, check. 20 pounds of TNT. Let's make some fruit juice.
While Adam and Jamie know a tomato works, the video also shows a variety of fruit and veg being satisfactorily slurred. So, to find out if this juicing technique really is that flexible, they're covering their bases.
Let's start attaching them to the buoys.
Finally, without knowing the ideal distance for this sized explosion,
That's the 2-footer.
each bag is placed under the surface
There's the 5-footer.
at staggered intervals.
There's the 10.
The blasting cap has an explosive energy of 3,640 joules. 20 pounds of TNT has 37 megajoules. Will the larger amplitude blast wave be more effective? We're about to find out.
Doesn't it look beautiful?
Yeah, it's perfect.
All right, Captain, back to shore. Let me explain our methodology, although I think it's pretty straightforward. At the 3 orange buoys at the end of that line, we are going to hang 20 pounds of explosives 10 feet down. At each of the numbered markers is hanging a bag of fruit about 5 feet down.
Okay, large-scale fruit smoothie
We're going to set off those explosives,
in 3,
retrieve what fruit we can,
2,
and find out how juicy the explosives made it.
1. Uh-oh. Yeah, that was a little more energetic than I thought.
More energetic, and at 8,000 frames per second, it's also beautiful.
You can see the original impulse of the explosive starting to expand, and then you can see a set of different speed shock waves emanating out from that center. Then you can also see some of the reflected waves, which are bouncing off the bottom of the lake, also interrupting and creating secondary artifacts around the primary shock wave. This is one of the loveliest shots of an explosion I think that we have ever gotten.
Extraordinary footage.
That's 40.
But did they get any juice?
That's 30. This is actually pretty darn cool. We were afraid when we first saw the explosion go off that we'd lost like most of our fruit. But it turns out it seems that we have lost our 2, 5, and 10-foot bags, which we kind of expected because they're so close to the explosion. We got them from 15. Awesome. But we have 15, 20, 25, 30, and 40. Now it's time to inspect and see just how juicy our bouquets of fruit and vegetables are.
The initial signs
Oh, man.
are not great.
Okay, I'm just gonna go on a limb and say cucumbers do not like explosives.
Searching through the debris, many of the victims are ruptured, but luckily not all.
This one's been compromised.
There is evidence of tenderization
It's definitely softer.
at 40 feet.
No, so I'd say that orange is not a fruit juice dispenser.
30,
No, no.
25, and 20.
Tomatoes, that one's dead. The kind of carnage that can only be yielded by an episode of MythBusters.
But by the time all survivors have been examined, the results are definitive.
No, it's the same thing as before.
Not juice.
Not juice.
Tender.
Tender, but not juice.
So, seems like bigger is not better in this case, huh?
No. We found at least one thing for which more explosives do not get a better result.
But why didn't it scale up?
We know that blast pressures can bounce off of surfaces. They can reflect. And so that small container caused the blast pressure to go back and forth through the fruit a bunch of times, each time breaking the cell walls a little bit more. So that may actually have been the ideal situation, even though the amount of explosive was very small.
If you remember, we started out with a viral video that seemed to imply that with a little boom in a box, you could generate sweet juice out of something like a tomato. In that scale, we actually succeeded in getting some lovely gulps of juice out of a tomato. Now, it didn't work when we scaled it up, but I have to say, given how well it worked in the scale that the video shows, I think that we're gonna have to call this one plausible. We've been trying to cook shrimp in midair, and so far, we've got buckus.
We were able to exactly replicate the processes we saw in that video, but the problem is we weren't able to replicate any of the results. And when you think about it, it's not really surprising because all of these activities are occurring in the course of milliseconds. So there's not really any time for coding or cooking anything. We have no choice, therefore, but to conclude that those results were faked. Of course, we're not done yet.
Yep, in this finely seasoned food challenge,
Yeah, I like it further away.
Me too.
they have to exhaust all reasonable possibilities. With the ingredient clouds busted as a possibility, it boils down to heat.
It's gonna get hot in here.
A sword forge
Welcome to Jamie's Tempura Kitchen.
versus a single pre-prepared shrimp.
Watashi wa shrimpu no gakusei desu ne.
Science is often about refining questions and removing variables, and we have done both of those here.
I'll turn on the gas.
Shrimp, gun, furnace,
It's gonna take a few minutes to get hot.
hopefully cooked shrimp on the other side. We are soon to find out.
I'm getting about 2,100 degrees. That's 5 times hotter than we were getting in our fireball.
Yeah,
750,000 British thermal units of heat energy are generated by this propane-powered forge.
it's like some sort of jet engine.
Each of those BTUs can raise the temperature of 1 pound of water by 1 degree Fahrenheit.
Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Dude, that is one hot oven. Here we go.
But is there enough time for that energy to cook the pre-prepped shrimp?
I'm feeling good about this. Here we go, firing shrimp through a forge. And 3, 2, 1, go!
The shrimp fired through the forge accurately. But did it fry?
Does it seem at all cooked to you? Are the breadcrumbs crispy at all?
No.
We upped our fire game significantly in this last experiment, where formerly we had a fireball that was about as hot as a consumer oven, 500 degrees. This forge was 2,000 degrees. We fired the shrimp through it, and we ended up with a room temperature shrimp.
And I can feel this is cold.
It's cold. Oh, wait. 67 degrees.
Yeah, room temperature.
Room temperature. That's not a cooked shrimp.
Despite trying several times,
It hit the plate!
the flying shrimp shows no sign of warming to the occasion.
Dun, dun, dun. Stop right there. 66 degrees.
Most people would give up at this point, but come on, we're not most people. We're gonna continue. How about instead of 3 feet of sword forge, 12 feet of sword forge? Yeah, evil laugh. We're gonna set this up and try it again.
Using all of their 14 years of experience, this is the very cutting edge of ramping it up.
For reference, a typical kitchen burner is putting out 10 to 15,000 BTUs. This setup right here, 3 million BTUs, all encased in one long square tube. That's pretty extreme heat. You ready to fire it up?
Let's do it.
This is it.
It's looking pretty good.
One final fry-on-the-fly try.
Whoa.
One last chance
I'm gonna love the shrimp.
Okay.
to cook a cannon-fired shrimp.
Man, I've never seen anything like that before.
No. This is an insane thing. We have 12 feet of Sword Forge putting out 3 million BTUs of heat. If this doesn't cook it, nothing will. Nothing. Okay, maybe something, but not something we can build here. Are you ready?
Ready to fire.
Firing a shrimp in midair. 3 million BTUs. 3, 2, 1, fire! It made it through! Ha-ha! You hit the plate! Fire!
The shrimp flew successfully through all 4 sword forges
Okay, here we go.
and hit the target, ready to be served up and eaten, right?
Still raw. That is still a raw shrimp. That is not cooked. The breading has not been set. It's room temperature.
Well, there you go.
There you go. No shrimp for you tonight.
Well, you can't fault us for not trying. You can have all the heat you want, but if there's not enough time, you're not cooking.
Looking at it from a physics perspective, the limiting factor is not the amount of heat or even necessarily how long the meat is exposed to the heat. It's how fast the heat can move through the meat. You can't cook a shrimp until you've got the outside hot and the inside not raw. This was just not enough time. This was on the order of milliseconds, and you need at least a couple of minutes. No, I'm not eating this at the end of this take. It's disgusting.